Are you live?
Ready. Standing by.
Five, four, three, two, one. You are live. You are live.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the sunrise. Nope, already started that off wrong. Welcome to the sunset safari. My name is Tayla, and on camera with me today is Sebastian. I've obviously still got morning on the brain. Now, we're very lucky to get a quick glimpse of the Ngahuma Pride and what looked to be like mfumo. It hasn't been warm at all. I've even got my scarf on first thing up in the afternoon. Sebastian's already put a jersey on. It actually feels like a winter's day today, but with sun, I suppose. It's quite nice. It's not bad at all, and that's good for us because it means that hopefully some of the big cats would have been shuffling around during game drive. We didn't have very many cats on the property today, and it sounds like a leopard was seen by the maintenance team at some point as well. So that's quite exciting. Types of cats this afternoon, who knows, maybe some spots in the form of a hyena, buffalo. I'm very excited. So I've actually got my eyes on the ground at the moment, and then also scanning from left to right, just trying to figure out and see if these buffalo have actually come this far south. Now, if they've come in from the Manuleti, they'll probably go towards Sydney's dam, which is down that way, and then they normally come onto the property, and this is typically the sort of corridor they like to pass through. So we'll have the lion tracks. I think these are the lion tracks from this morning though, however, but I'm going to have a quick look around here just to triple check. Let's go across to Tristan so he can officially introduce himself.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our sunset safari. As Taylor mentioned, my name is Tristan, and on camera today I've got Craig, aka the Batman. Now, he's not wearing his fancy suit yet, but don't worry, everybody, we will get him into it at some point, and we'll show you, all of you, when he does. Now, it is a live interactive experience, which means that all of you can get involved in our afternoon and our 3 hours as we meander through Djuma Game Reserve in the northeastern corner of South Africa, and you can do that on #SafariLive on Twitter. There we go. That's the opening speech, and hopefully it will be a good afternoon. The sun is starting to come out, clouds are breaking. It feels like one of those aha moments. You know, when there's those memes where somebody the light starts to shine and things start to happen. So hopefully it will be a busy one with lots and lots of animals. Taylor seems like she's going to have a exciting afternoon. Well, hopefully it will be an exciting afternoon as she looks for the big dark mass that is a herd of buffalo, as well as the sharp-clawed, sharp-teethed Ngahuma Pride. And that hopefully will be a successful mission for Taylor. Ex-Ranger, you would like to know what would Craig, aka the Bat, mysterious Batman, like to see this afternoon? Craigie? Apparently I can only call Craig Craigie on Sundays. That's what he says. Everyone calls him Craigie on Sundays. Yes, Craig? What would you like to see? You don't know? What do you want? A leopard. Okay, Craig. For you, I shall try my very, very best to find you a leopard. If I find you a leopard, Craig, then what? Then you'll congratulate me. Craig, that's very boring. Congratulations is not what I need from you. You need to spice things up. If I don't find you a leopard, Craig, well, we'll have to come up with something as well. I'll have to think about all of this as we go. But that's what I was going to do anyway, Craig, so you read my mind. I'm going to try and find us a spotted, beautiful cat this afternoon. I'm also going to just meander around and see if there isn't any sign of some ellies around the water holes. Oh, Lisa, this is a tough one because you want to know if there's any chance of seeing quarantine. And while there is always a chance when you are in the bush, you never know where these animals could be, it is highly unlikely that we'll see him, which is very sad because I've never seen Quarantine and I'm dying to see him, and unfortunately his territory doesn't lie really where we traverse anymore. It used to when we had a bit of cheetah plains, but now with us just reducing our traverse for the next little bit before we expand again, it means that unfortunately we're not really in the areas that Quarantine likes to hang out, and so it means that the chances of seeing him are very unlikely unless he goes towards that real eastern part of Chitwa and somebody finds him there and we potentially then get to see him. But I know he has been seen in that area before. It's very unlikely, but sometimes you never know, these things can happen, so that's what we've got to hope for, but chances are very slim in comparison to seeing some of the other cats out here. Now apparently the team that is busy with the road maintenance saw a leopard today. I don't know where and I don't know who, so I'm going to try and find out. Herbie's busy going to go and ask them for me, and then he's going to let me know whereabouts they saw said leopard and who said leopard was. Hopefully it's going to be little Shongile or Shongololo, as a lot of you may know her as, because Brent calls her that, and hopefully it's around Treehouse Dam and it'll be a nice easy find. We did check there this morning, very few tracks, or in fact no tracks really to work with, but there had been a herd of elephants there and lots of cars drove around there this morning, and might have meant that that's why the tracks were squished before we could actually see them. So we're going to definitely go and try and see if we can't find this mystery leopard and where it was. Sounds like it should be exciting though. But before we get there, I thought I would just check on this western part of Djuma, and the reason why I'm sticking on the western part of Djuma is we know the Nkuhumas were seen crossing into Simambili, and sometimes they do a big loop round, and so it's always worth checking. Also, I had a feeling about Shadow and Cub today. I don't know why, I just had a feeling that maybe it's worth looking for them, so I've come down along the bumpy new road, which is very sort of bumpy. It's good for the abs though, it's good little exercise, and trying to see if there's any sign of Shadow and Cub. So far no tracks that I can see, but I will just have a little quick look down at the bottom as well. So Ali, you say Shadow and Cub would be the greatest gift ever. Now Ali, I think it's you that it's your birthday, so hopefully we'll be able to find Shadow and Cub for your birthday, and we'll be able to then have the best birthday that's gift that the bush can give you, I hope anyway. So let's see if we can do it. I'll pay extra special attention now to try and see if I can find said Shadow and Cub. Wouldn't it be nice if they're on one of these big termite mounds? This road is filled with big mounds all along the edges of the road, and it would be lovely just to find the two of them sitting upon one of those mounds, gazing on the beauty that is this sort of area in front of us. Like I say, I really like this area. It's, for some reason, I don't know why, it just appeals to me. It's kind of an area that I would like to spend a lot of time, and I think sightings here will be very, very nice in all the sort of parts of the year. I think in summer it's going to be thick and bushy but beautiful at the same time, and lots of interesting things will be here. It's got nice sort of variety of trees, from torchwoods to marulas to black monkey orange to dicrostachys or sicklebush to silver cluster leaf. So there's lots of different species of trees, which is great habitat for many different animals and insects, and that means we should have quite a nice variety, particularly in the summer. Now, talking about animals and insects, our first animal of the day, and well, where these guys are sometimes could mean that there could be a leopard around. They don't look as though any leopard is here because they're taking their time to have a nice rest. You can see some of them are actually lying down, which is unusual for this time of the day. You generally find your impalas lie down more in the evenings. When it's dark, they find an open area and they'll sit down like that. But when you see impalas lying in the grass, even though that is a young impala, you know that the chances of there being a leopard anywhere around here is probably quite slim. Although you can't say never, because leopards are ambush predators and they are very good at hiding, and they could be sneaking around somewhere in this long grass, but I highly doubt it. You can also hear the chirping of oxpeckers, rattling away and squeaking away, and that's probably because there was a young one that may have been begging for food from one of the adults. It often is the case when they do that. Now, oxpeckers are an interesting bird because other than cleaning these impalas that we have here, they are also a great indicator for us, particularly when we're driving around or even on foot and we're looking for certain things. We were talking about just now the buffalo, and if Taylor's looking for buffalo, often when you see oxpeckers fly over above you and they make a little bit of noise, they really are the best thing to be able to find buffalo, because they will land on the buffalo, and if you see a high concentration of them, you know to be on the lookout for said animals. So they do also hang around obviously on impalas and other things too. Now our impalas are just sort of drifting off into the shady areas and away from us, so we're going to carry on. They are beautiful animals though, particularly when we get sort of late afternoon lights. That's when I always think impalas are the best. They have that sort of orange coloration, and as the light comes down in the afternoon, it sort of just makes that color pop out a little bit more, and it really makes them absolutely beautiful. And I always think that if an impala was rare, you would have a situation that people would probably flock to come and see them because they are that pretty. It's a pretty interesting sort of thing that when something becomes common, it's sometimes, you know, people lose the value. Anyway, well, we're going to try and see if we can't find shadow and cover, like I say, as per Ali's wishes. And while we do that, let's go across to Miss McCurdy, see how she's doing, whether or not she's found any signs, and I really hope this afternoon that she's successful and that she has a really good afternoon, because, well, it's Friday and we are going to have a nice gathering this evening, and a Tayla in a good mood is always best for when you're having a gathering in the evening.
Why are you telling everybody my secrets, Tristan? Right, we're sitting here. There sounds like there's a very unhappy Franklin in the bushes. We'll just ignore it. Now we've checked Triple M over here. Unfortunately, no lion tracks coming back in just yet. We know exactly which pan they would have used to drink. Hopefully they're not too far from here. I also haven't found any signs of the buffalo just yet. Maybe they're resting just on the other side of Sydney's dam, and then we wouldn't be able to see them, but hopefully they come through here. Let's go a little bit forward. I don't know why it's making a strange noise. I've noticed that the Franklins have been particularly chatty at the moment. Let's see if we can find the culprit. Now come here, you've opened your big beak now, and you're making all this noise. Where are you? It's underneath this thicket. Perhaps something like a raptor must have given it a fright, and then it maybe ran and ducked down. Oh, there they are. You won't be able to see them. I don't think you will. We might see the grass moving around a little bit. Sounds like there's more than one, so perhaps that's what happened, because it's on the ground, so it's not like there's a predator on the floor, because then they'd typically fly up to the tops of the trees. That must have been a bird of prey. We have been seeing a lot of shikras this morning. After we saw that one, we saw two more different ones, so they could be quite scared. I actually don't think it's a Franklin. It might have been a Natal spur fowl, interestingly enough. Okay, but we'll keep going. Oh, and then another thing that happened today that we need to start looking out for, and another reason why I think the birds have been making so much noise, we saw Franklins, crested Franklins, fighting. Now, unfortunately, it wasn't close enough to the road that we were able to put it on camera, but we just could see them through the gaps, and we're also in a little gremlin spot. I've never seen Franklins fight before, but very interesting. They would sort of jump up and sort of kick each other with their spurs. Also, it almost looked like they were chest bumping too. At one point I thought, this is not a fight. You know, they're just sort of congratulating each other, but of course it was two males sort of having a dispute, which was quite interesting, and they were making quite a bit of noise while they were doing that too. So hopefully we get to see something like that again, because it was a very, very short sighting, and I would have loved to have been able to have spent more time with them to observe a Franklin fight. Actually, any birds fighting is very, very interesting. So I'm not sure what we're going to do just yet. Perhaps we'll go and find that herd of wildebeest that were on the dam cam. I'd like to spend a bit of time with them, and then I'm not sure what else we will do. But I did bring another thing that I did do. I brought my book with all the nests and eggs in it, so we'll have a look at some of those later. Perhaps when we find some yellow-billed hornbills, we'll take a look at what their eggs look like. I know what they look like because I read about them earlier today. But I'll actually be able to show you some pictures. Megan, are you still there? I'm just checking. I thought we'd lost comms for a second. I really thought for a moment, I was like, oh, maybe I'm presenting and they've had to crash cut away from me, because that happens actually on a regular basis. Sometimes we lose comms with Final Control, and you just carry on and on and on and on and on. Like, like normal. But there's a request this afternoon from Shelly Loves Ellies. I'm sure I don't even need to tell you what she's requested, but we'll go anyway. You would like to see some elephants. Maybe we get lucky and we find that herd of elephants that Tristan had this morning. That would be quite nice. Perhaps we'll see if it didn't pop out on the boundary and maybe have a look at them too. But we'll see what else we can find. It's turned out to be a beautiful day. But I'll send you across now to Tristan. He's found himself a small antelope.
We have indeed. Well, I'm pretty sure he'll be pretty upset if we told him he's small, because this is a male Steenbok that is in his prime. He's got a female here close by that just went across the road. You see his scent marking using those glands just around the eye area. There's preorbital glands, and then there we go, trotting off into the bush. And look at that camouflage, isn't that incredible? Amazing how he just disappears. Now the female went bursting off to the right hand side. She was not having any of us, but the male was at least obliging enough to sit in the road for 2 seconds. And I actually want to just go quickly check and try and see if I can show you guys just how small these guys' feet are, because it's something that we don't often look at. I can't remember actually the last time we would have shown you a Steenbok track, so I'm going to try and see if I can't find it. Where are we? Sure, it's so difficult to even see them in amongst all the other tracks. Craig, I don't know if you're going to be able to get these, but let's see if I can show them to you quickly, because they are very little. Craig, can you get those ones there in the tire tread? So these little dots that you see going up through like that. So go up a little bit. There we go. That's a little Steenbok hoof right there. So it is tiny. It looks like just a little hole in the sand, doesn't it? Amazing how small that hoof is. And it's almost nondescript, because with the soft sand, as it's stepped, it's made that sand explode outwards, and that's why it looks like just a big round hole. You'll find the bigger the hoof, the more it's able to compress sand, and you're able to then get a distinct track. But very small. I would say that track is probably no bigger than, I would say, maybe about the size of the front end of my finger. That's about as big as the hoof is. Now, I'm just going to try and see. This is an area that Shadow and the cubs spend quite a bit of time, so I'm just quickly checking very nicely. The fact that we've got two Steenbok kind of running around, playing, and not really too stressed would tend to suggest that there isn't a leopard in this area. And there was no reports of the tracks coming back from Arethusa since we last tracked her that way. But you never know with her. She's one of those leopards that moves quite a bit, and particularly during the day. I've seen lots of signs of Shadow moving during the day over the last few months, and it wouldn't surprise me if she is snuck in here as the day has gone on. But alas, no signs at this stage. And Tayla was alluding to the fact that it really has turned into a beautiful afternoon. There's a bit of a wind that's blowing, but it's not a cold wind, so that's okay for us. That's not going to be too much of a stress. We're going to try and see if we can't maybe check some of the water holes. I would imagine that the things like Ellie's and maybe the buffalo would be somewhere near water, so that'll be quite nice if we can find them. And I can see a very special animal just coming over the ridge. You can see it there. It's now blinding us. It's doing its display. It's showing us how it likes to attract others and show off as it moves along. That's the display of Tayla with the French Sebastian. Now one has to be careful when seeing this vehicle coming down the road. You have to sit dead quiet. It can be quite dangerous if you pull out in front of it, and so you need to just sit and let said creature approach slowly and allow it some space and some room, because you don't want to frighten it in any way. And so it's best to sit tight and whisper as we go. Look at those lights flashing in a display that can be said as one of dominance, maybe. It's a difficult creature to work out exactly what it's thinking. Now you see it's trying to use the bush to sneak up on us. One needs to be careful when hiding behind the bushes. Sometimes this likes to come out and prey on us, and I wonder if it's trying to stalk us. Look, it's going into crouch position. Everyone be careful. This might be a moment where we might have to start and race away fairly quickly. Look how it's using the trees to its advantage. In the grass it goes, and it's coming slowly but surely. Need to whisper now, don't want to startle it. Oh goodness, it's coming. And there we go. It then ends up giggling like a absolute...
Do you think I would make a good leopard?
Maybe,
Cheetah,
actually.
though, because
The problem was your flashing lights from far away didn't quite do very well for you.
Oh, did you spot me? It's supposed to aid as a distraction.
Was it a distraction?
That's why, thank goodness.
It did distract me. I didn't notice you behind the steering wheel with all the lights flashing.
Oh, good.
Yes, well done.
I just thought it was on autopilot.
When you're on autopilot.
It would have been great if I could have put the car in low range and kept going and then run behind you and then...
Yes, that would have been quite fun, and then I would have tried to...
next time.
Mulawati. Okay, next time we shall do it. No, after you. Where do you want to go?
I was just doing a boundary control, but you can carry it.
Alright. Thank you, Taylor. Age before beauty. Yes, well, thank you, Taylor. I know I'm getting old these days, and Taylor constantly reminds me that I'm much older than what she is. So, not only does this creature like to stalk up on one, but also remind one that it is slightly on the older side of the spectrum. And there is a vehicle that has waited very patiently for us to get up to our shenanigans, as we have done. Thank you very much. Sorry that we were keeping sort of everybody at bay. At least he was nice enough to wait for us. I've met quite a few vehicles that would have just come plowing through and would have completely ruined the stalk that Taylor is. And now she's trying to race me. So she's now driving on this side trying to race me. She doesn't want to tell anybody, but I think she just maybe went over a bump. Craig, do you see her on your left-hand side there? It's like now a race of who can go slower almost. But look at it, it's cruising. This is how you keep up with this creature. And there's a Queen wave from the French National in the back. I wonder if the French would be happy about the Queen's wave. They're often a little bit sensitive between the British and the French, and I wonder if the Queen's wave would have gone down. So Taylor apparently is going to follow me the whole safari. Well, Taylor, let's see if you can keep up with me at some point. And there she's stopping, hiding behind the bush again. It's a very sneaky little creature, this. She's going to have to be careful because our little Steenbok friend, let's see if we can get Steenbok and Taylor. There we go. There's the Steenbok. There's Taylor. Look at it going past. She didn't even notice the Steenbok. She wouldn't have made a good leopard if she didn't notice the Steenbok. And now she's just going past and off she goes. Our Steenbok is completely oblivious to what's just gone on. You can see it's still feeding. And that would be the very same Steenbok we saw just now. See its little horns sticking up? Oh, have you got a little bit of lunch? That looks like yummy lunch. It's got a bit of greenery to it. I love the way that they chew. Look how quickly it goes down. You clever little thing. Well done. Now, interesting enough with Steenbok, in dry conditions like we are now, you'll find that these guys will really be able to survive much better than a lot of the animals because they have a very low sort of tolerant, well, high tolerance, should I say, for lack of water. These guys will get most of their moisture from dew in the mornings. We know now it's colder temperatures, which causes dew often to form on the grass itself, and that means that these guys will get their moisture from that. And so even in areas where there's very little water, a Steenbok is able to survive and able to find the water that it needs. And we were talking about it earlier this morning with elephants. Do they get moisture from their vegetation? Well, a Steenbok will actually lick the dew off of the grass and plants to get the moisture it needs, as well as gain that moisture from what it eats. So pretty interesting little animal. But you can see how these guys are difficult to find, even for leopard and cheetah and lions and all the other predators out here. When that sits down, when it feels like it's threatened, it will sometimes just sit right down and tuck itself up, and it will just look exactly like a stone, and that's where its name has come from. A steen is a stone or a rock, and a bok is a buck, so that's where its name comes from, Steenbok, and that is in Afrikaans. So very clever survival technique. Thank you, little Steenbok. You've relaxed nicely. It seems that Taylor had a calming influence on our Steenbok as we went. Now, James, you said, can we do a comparison between a Steenbok and a duiker track? I would like to do one. I'll have to try and find two that are together, or maybe even a duiker track that I spot on the way as we go, but I'll definitely try to do that. In fact, maybe we should keep that for our bushwalk. I think bushwalk, we wanted to do it today, but unfortunately we had a few little issues that we had to sort out, and so we'll probably only start the bushwalks again next week when we get all of the feeds back in together, and we'll be able to then get things sorted. So that's the kind of plan going forward, would be for those sort of the bushwalk to be back up and running, and I'll try and find those 2 tracks the next time I'm on bushwalk. Well, there's tracks for a lion that went over the road, but those are not fresh, they're from yesterday. Now, I've just passed Miss McCurdy, and I see that she is gazing upon a structure. Some may say a castle, some may say a mound, but let's go across to Tayla and see what she calls it.
A termite mound, Tristan. Did they forget to teach you that at bush school? No, of course I'm only just joking, but I think a castle or the other things that you use to describe a termite mound are pretty good as well. But what I find particularly interesting about this one is that it's just unusual looking. Lots of different types of chimneys. I mean, look at that crazy one over there, that massive one. Isn't that unbelievable? But now, these termites have tricked us. And I'll tell you why they've tricked us. I just want to go around the back without falling. Is that if you look around over here, you should see some discoloration on this bit and on this part of the mound here where it's not grey. It's almost that orangey brown colour. And I think what's happened here is there were obviously a couple of trees that the termite mound started, well, the termites started building up against, using it for support, just like the sort of, well, all the heavy metal poles that you will have in all the different types of infrastructure you'll get inside to keep everything, well, good and steady. That's what they started using that for. And then they completely engulfed it. And now, I'm sure that we're breaking down part of it because it's very brittle, as you can see here. Lots of sand inside that too. So they've actually been feeding on it too, which I thought was quite interesting. But no termites now, it's too cold for them. Which is a pity because I miss talking about all the termites. I miss the pirate flies actually, catching the ants and termites. But let me climb in, sorry, it's me jumping in the car. We'll have to wait for, when are we going to have to wait? For our rains to come, right. But there we go, nice termite mound. All those chimneys are closed up nice and tight though to keep the warm air inside. Now we're sort of doing a bit of backtracking at the moment. We're going on a road that Tristan has already driven, but we'll take one which he hasn't drive on now. Lisa, you said you'd love to see a termite swarm again. Me too, that's one of my favorite things when the alates are released from the mounds. I have so many videos of them at sunset. It's so beautiful, and the amount of life that comes just from those alates being released. The frogs, lizards, snakes, owls, hyenas, so many different types of things that actually feed on them. I'm trying to figure out, looks like Tristan actually came from Philemon's Dip. Let's go this way around. I know he said he wasn't, but it doesn't look like his tracks come out from there. Oh no, wait, why have I not gone on the new road? What's wrong with me? Let's go back. Let's take the new road. I just need to do a little bit of reversing here. That's a good road. And to be honest, I actually didn't check it this morning. I'm not sure if Tristan checked it either, and it's normally quite a good road for leopards. Now, Mary, you're wondering where the new road is, and is it a new road or has it just been renamed? No, it's a new road that they actually created. It runs between Gowrie Main, Triple M, Philemon's Cut Line and Impala Plains Road. So it's one that's cut through this massive block, and it goes to our repeater, in fact. So it's quite a nice road. It divides this block in half, and it's just been an absolute and a huge help to us on safari, because it really is a thick, dense block and we couldn't really navigate it before. Now I have just stopped over here because this tree just to my left is one of the guarri trees, but there was a chameleon on here the other night. Now I don't think they're going to be moving around too much, so I'm staring into the leaves trying to see if I can maybe spot this chameleon during the day. I have done it before, but I don't know if we're going to get lucky. It was so camouflaged. Even when we lost it the day we had it amongst the leaves, it took us a couple of minutes. No luck there. That's a pity. Thought maybe it was going to be sitting on the edge and we could have quite a cool day. A daylight chameleon sighting. We always just see them at night. And they're more active during the day. I'd love to be able to spend some time with the chameleon and watch it as it moves about a tree, going about its day, hopefully catching something, because it's something I've still never seen, is a chameleon catching a fly or a grasshopper or a praying mantis or anything like that. Some elephants that walk down here. There was also one dwarf mongoose that ran across the road. Now it's disappeared. Let's see if we can find some more. There's one. Hey mongoose, but now don't hide. They're not all together. I don't know if you can see it in there, Seb. It's difficult. It's long grass. No, it's gone now. It's hiding behind that log. See, when they're not all together and they're out foraging, doing their different things, it's very difficult to try and get a view of them, especially in that long grass that we had just there. So the best times I always say to see dwarf mongoose are normally first thing in the morning when they're warming themselves up, and then just before the sun goes down when they've all gathered around their mounds before they go to bed. But out here it can prove to be quite tricky. Who have we got up in front? Impala are our first antelope. Let's see if they're going to hang around. Are you feeding on the termite mound? And we're going to stop just up a little bit ahead. And there's a whole herd of impala. Mainly the girls, which it typically is, but we are seeing large bachelor herds at the moment. And there they are, standing up. one of the massive termite mounds that we get to see. And Tristan was actually chatting this morning about how animals like to feed around mounds. There's very, very good nutritional concentration in the soil, so it's good for the plants. That little one. You're not too sure about us. You haven't taken your eyes off us once since we've been here. And that's what an animal will do, is if it feels as though you're a threat to it, it'll obviously start to settle down now. It will realize that we're not interested at all. And they will stare at you and try and stay as still as possible. It's a very sort of basic defense mechanism to avoid predation, is to freeze. Off it goes. Running downhill, very graceful. There's a couple more of them. They're all just feeding about just around the corner. They seem fairly relaxed. Though what amazes me about animals is how one moment they could be chased by a pride of lions, narrowly escaping their death, and you come past them an hour later and it's as if nothing has even happened. And that's just their life for them, is that they literally could, well, I suppose, be a meal to any of the predators at any moment. But here's a tender moment between mom and a young boy. She grooms him, he grooms her. And that's how it continues. There we go, he'll go in again. We're actually very lucky with Impala sightings that we get because they're so relaxed. And Steph, you say that they are so pretty. They are indeed. It's hard not to love Impala. They're great to photograph. They're normally the most obliging antelope out there when it comes to trying to take pictures of them. I'm still waiting for my sighting of bounding Impala up on the quarantine, the open area at sunset. And they must be silhouetted, of course. I'm still asking for that sighting. I haven't had it just yet. Perhaps my birthday this year. Maybe that will be my present from nature. But let's carry on. Let's keep moving along this road. Maybe we see some other things. There are plenty of Impala out there. I'm sure we'll stop and have another look at them. Let's see what else we've got out here today. Ooh, there was some nice alliteration there, Megan. Right, so what we're going to do now is we'll keep searching. I'm going to, like I always say, we're going to check the tops of the trees, the termite mounds, and down in the grass for anything that we can find. Either a mammal or a bird. Insects, if we can find the odd one, maybe some spiders. But I'm going to send you across to Tristan. It seems as though he's looking for leopards.
I am indeed, Tayla. I think I'm in a permanent state of looking for leopards. I don't know what's wrong with me. I think you would think after these years I've suffered enough of following tracks and seeing very little, but well, it's addictive and I can't help it. So we are searching for leopards. We'll also search for anything in the tops of the trees and on the mounds and in the grass and all of those kind of places as we go along. We're not going to be only focusing on leopards, but well, it would be nice to find one. It's given that this is now our... how many drives are we now without a leopard? This will be our 6th drive since we've seen Mvula and Shongile together, so it would be nice if we can find a leopard today. It's been sort of frustrating 2 days of lots of tracks, but actual very few sort of visuals of our leopard. Now, I believe that this leopard was seen somewhere around Twin Dam's Mamba area, so I want to check quickly down to the dam itself. If there's no sign there, then maybe, just maybe, this leopard is inside the Mulawati. Which leopard it is, no idea. I don't know who saw it. I just know that it was the guys that were doing the road maintenance, and they really weren't very sort of forthcoming with exactly where they were. I'm not sure if they actually kind of know the roads very well. They know how to get around, but I don't know if they know the names of the roads, so that might make it a little bit more difficult. Cats. So you're wondering about Anderson Male, if I have any updates about him. Cats, I'm just trying to think. I did hear about him, when was it? 2 days ago? Maybe yesterday. Yesterday or 2 days ago, somewhere around there. He crossed into Londolozi, and then from Londolozi came back into a property known as Shirley's and northwards towards EP Arethusa Cutline. So that's, and apparently looking healthy and fine, and as I would expect from the big lad. So he's doing just fine, which is good. I haven't personally seen him in a long time, but I've seen some photos of him recently, and he really is still as big as ever. So nice to hear that he is around and that he has been seen. He's quite an elusive male though. Sometimes you'll go 3-4 weeks, maybe longer, without seeing him. You won't see a trace of him, and then you'll see him, and then you'll see day, and then you'll go these big spans again. And it's probably due to the fact that his territory is just so big, and that he's quite a shy male. So even though he's a large individual, he's a lot like Tingane in some respects, that he likes to just sort of move and pass through in thickets, and he walks so fast that it makes him actually quite a tough guy to keep up with. He's not a leopard that you can follow easily and find him very easily. He's one that you've got to kind of really work quite hard and have a little bit of luck on your side. He's just checking. Yeah, no sign in any of these trees, no tracks on the ground. I wonder if our lizard lair, our romance room, is busy today. Let's have a look from here. Yes, there we go. Over there, Craig, you see the water monitor on the edge of the water. Now if you just go straight in, there we go, straight in, you can keep going. Just at that little green clump in your frame there. There we go. So there's both of them are out. Our pool is together, so you can now get a sort of size difference. Yesterday afternoon we sat here and we talked about our two monitor lizards, and there you can get a very clear size difference between the two to see just how much bigger the one is on the right than the one on the left. And one on the left went inside that little hole just to the left of its foot and disappeared inside there, and then the bigger one was out. But it seems that both of them are back there again together and staying in the same place, and they're busy sunning themselves. They will be loving this bit of sun that has come out this afternoon. It's been a cold, overcast, dreary day, and you'll find that a situation where these guys have spent some time on the banks now just to warm up a little bit, and hopefully will then be able to get a little bit more active in the afternoon when it comes to searching for food and trying to find the nutrients to keep them alive. They are a reptile, which means that generally they have quite a slow metabolism, particularly in the winter months, and so they're not going to require massive amounts of food to sustain them every single day. You'll find if there's an opportunity, they'll go after it, but otherwise it's going to be quite sort of slow feeding process for them. If they are mating, they'll need a bit of warmth just to get that blood circulating and to be able to then be quite active inside the room of romance. But how amazing is their camouflage? So when you see them up close, they've got these bright colorations on them. There's lots of bits of yellow. But when Craig starts coming back like that, you can see, watch how they just disappear into that bank. It becomes, if it wasn't for the tail, the body section actually blends in incredibly well. You can hardly see the smaller one on the left now. You can just make out the tail of the one on the right. And so their camouflage is perfect for spending time around the edges of water sources where you get this sort of darker greyish kind of mud. Very clever. So Izzy, you're saying the tail is huge. What is the purpose or function of having such a long tail? Well, Izzy, it's twofold. One is for being able to propel them when they not only are on land but in water. It helps them to swim much faster using a long powerful tail. And the second thing is a very good defensive weapon. Now you can imagine if another monitor comes and there's a fight for territory, they'll turn with their tails and they'll whip each other. Also things like leopard and lion, they can use that tail just to get rid of those and make sure that they keep them at bay. So they use their tail a lot when they're trying to defend themselves. They puff themselves up and then flick that tail, and it acts just like a whip in a way. Being so long, and particularly with that thin end, I would imagine it must be quite sore when that thing hits you. So I wouldn't really want to tangle with one. I do know a guy that got bitten by one, and we had to use a pair of pliers to actually push the pliers between his hand and the jaw and then pry the jaws open to get it to release him. Otherwise it was impossible to get that monitor to release, and that guy was in a lot of pain. So not only can they whip with that tail, but they have a serious bite on them as well. And so it's an animal you don't mess around with, and certainly not one that you'd want to pick up. So Project Alpha, you say, must be a useful leopard deterrent or whip, especially in leopard country, and when you are as slow as you are as a monitor. Monitors are not nearly as fast as what a leopard would be, but you'd be surprised how fast a monitor can move. Everybody thinks they're slow, sluggish creatures. You'll be very surprised how fast these guys can run away from you. They're very quick. They use those forelegs and big, powerful feet, and they get that grip from those long nails, and they'll then just run away from you as quick as you can imagine. And they try and dive into vegetation, water, into holes and banks like you see there, where they can then get away from those leopards. But these two will have to be careful. If Shongila and Hosano, who spend quite a bit of time around here, see them, they certainly would try and have a go. The nice thing for these monitors is that bank is so open that they're going to see any leopard coming from a mile away, and it means it's going to be very difficult for any leopard to get anywhere near them. You can see there's not really any place to stalk them along that bank, and so these monitors almost have the penthouse suite. They've got an water overlooking some water, they've got a nice little hole there, open bank. It's about as good as it gets if you're a monitor lizard. Very nice. Now, I just want to try and see. I'm going to go around the top like we did yesterday. Maybe we can get a nicer, closer view. And also just want to make sure there's nothing hiding on the other side while we're sitting here. But hopefully we'll be able to get a nice sort of eye shot of our lizards lounging down below like we did yesterday. Come on. There's no lounging leopard that I can see. Jenny Animation, you are asking, sorry Craigie, I'm going to just try and turn us here. I don't know if we're going to be able to see them. You're asking whether they look after their eggs like crocodiles do. So when crocodiles lay eggs, they all kind of sit right near the nest and make sure that they're keeping those little eggs safe from marauding predators like the monitor lizard. And I would imagine that the female would probably stay quite close by and just help with the insulation of things and make sure that everything is nicely kind of looked after. But you can see this monitor is just sticking its head through the grass that way to the right. Oh, there's another one. There's actually 3 of them here, because the other one has disappeared into the hole where the clump of grass is. There's that smaller one there, and then there's another one in the clump of grass. So over here, Craigie, is where the other 2 were, and I saw one disappearing into the hole. So there's actually 3 of them in total. You see it there? Its head is just behind the grass, and it's just peering at us, using that grass for a bit of camouflage. There we go. So the other one went inside. Now I wonder if this is just a grouping of them, because like I say, the female is starting to come into a situation where it wants to mate, and that's why we're getting more and more coming into this area. But there's another one of the small ones, and it's definitely not the same one that we saw from afar, because I watched that one disappearing into the hole as we came around. It's saw its tail going in there, and so it's definitely not the same one. Very cool to see. Thanks, guys. There's also a little terrapin hanging out, 2 of them that are taking it very easy. And they're just sitting in the water, and you can actually see how they sit with their heads up, breathing air, and then the body hanging down below, all 4 legs out with those feet that are broad and webbed. They're able to then swim. You see they just do a little paddle every now and then, and that gets them back up towards the surface where they can breathe air. And otherwise they just take it very, very easy. And we'll find once we go, these guys will come just to the edge of the water, and they'll pull themselves up, and they'll be exactly like the monitor lizard. They'll have a bit of time sunbathing to warm up and get themselves a little bit more active, much like what the terrapins do. I mean, much like what the monitor lizards do, not the terrapins, because those are terrapins. Very nice. Now, most of us out here when we're on safari are scanning the bush, looking around, checking the trees, checking the ground. But it seems like Miss McCurdy is scanning in her car, which can mean only one of 2 things. And either she's lost something, or something has fallen in the car that she wants to show all of you.
even know what to say with that. What have I lost? What have I dropped? Sunglasses, radio, jersey with all the dust. I haven't exactly lost anything just yet. I just saw a Steenbok. There's another one that side. There's one that ran across the open plain. Let's check if we can see it. There it is. Oh, cool. That's nice out in the open too. No! We're only going to see a dust cloud. It's gone. They are so quick. Perhaps Tristan is the real Steenbok whisperer around here. He gets them to stand still. Right, let's go up here. There's a couple of birds we can have a look at. Steenbok don't like me very much. Who are we going to see on the floor? Firstly, there's a hornbill sitting on some elephant dung. I'm going to turn just here. Don't fly away, please, birds. I'm just about to come and talk to you. Well, there's many birds on the ground. There's one hornbill hopping away. So I'm actually going to open my book now, and I'm going to show you the egg of the yellow-billed hornbill. Now, remember this morning we were watching a pair of them prep. Well, it looked like they were prepping a nest site for the up-and-coming breeding season. Now, it'll be quite interesting. I wonder if they're going to breed earlier than normal. I wonder if a rain is going to come sooner, because it's interesting that the knobthorn flowers have already, well, the knobthorns have already started flowering. Typically it's only a little bit later in the year, but maybe it just depends on area to area. But I remember down south, and Ellie and I were actually having this discussion, we were saying how early they'd come through. Anything interesting down there that you're going to show us? You're going to catch something? They're really entertaining birds to watch. You can sit for ages. There we go, found something. What have we got? There's a little beetle carapace. Not exactly sure what it's got in the tip of its beak. It looks like it's struggling slightly. What is that? Did you hear that?
And again.
There was a strange noise, so I'm just listening. I'm actually going to take my earpiece out for 2 seconds. It was a very strange, like a distress call or something, but I don't know. It's not happening anymore. So maybe it was just a bird or something in the distance, and the wind was blowing. Well, maybe we're downwind of whatever that noise was, and it's sort of changing it up slightly. Right, let me show you what their eggs look like. Let's quickly get this out of the way. So here are the various eggs that you can see on here. Now the one that we're looking at is the yellow-billed hornbill, the southern yellow-billed hornbill. So it almost just looks like a chicken egg, really, don't you think? Or maybe a goose egg, because goose eggs are slightly more white in color, although at least the ones in South Africa. So like I said to you, I thought that they were maybe an off-white color, and that seems to be the case. No special painting, like you can see. Oh, look at the hoopoes. Look at the green wood hoopoes eggs. That's quite interesting, actually. Lovely and blue. Nice colorful eggs. And then the scimitar to the right, also blue in color and slightly smaller in size. And then look at the African hoopoo, green. It's amazing how they're able to paint their eggs like that. Isn't that cool? So this is an entire book dedicated to types of nests of birds and eggs. So hopefully we'll be able to, when we do find some nests and we're unsure as to who they belong to, we'll be able to use this as a guide. Now, it's got quite hot all of a sudden. I'm trying to think what our next route is going to be. I think let's go up Sandy Patch. I've decided that I want to bob and weave all of these roads here in the northwestern corner. So we'll go up Sandy Patch, then we'll come down Aubrey's, and we'll go up Gallagher. Maybe we'll even pop past Gallagher Pan. Then we'll go Mvubu Road. Then we'll stop at Vuyatela Dam. Maybe the wildebeest will still be around. So that's going to be our plan. We'll just start doing that. And then eventually we'll come back and do exactly the same thing again and end up back down towards where we lost those lions this morning when they disappeared into Simbambili. And hopefully they come back this way. Who knows, maybe they get the whiff of those that supposed herd of buffalo that were just slightly northwest of Sydney's dam. Maybe the wind changes and then that will sort of direct the lions to come back onto the property again, which will be very, very nice. And who knows, this is Mvula territory up here, so we definitely have a chance of spotting him. He hasn't been seen now for 2 drives, so I don't know whereabouts he is. I think Tristan was the last one to see him. Goodness, that sighting with Tristan, Shongile, Thandi and Mvula feels like ages ago. It doesn't feel like it just happened the other day. Let's keep searching here. We might see some nice birds again. I love these wooded areas for birds. Let's look for a chagra, a brown or a black crowned chagra. Any one of them would do. It'll be nice, but that means we've got to stare into the trees, of course, and look for fluttering. Nothing just yet. This would also be another good spot for buffalo. Looks like there was some zebra here at one point, also walking down the road. It actually looks like it's from last night. So maybe they've already left the property. Come on, Mvula, step out onto the road for us. That would be really great. Other than zebra tracks, there's actually doesn't look like much has really been walking on this road at all. I can't imagine it not being a favorable place for animals. There's quite a bit of cover around here, lots of worry trees. The grass seems to be nice. It's nice and short, so it caters to the animals that prefer the shorter grass for grazing. And the elephants have definitely spent quite a bit of time around here. There are lots and lots of trees that are pushed over, sort of just remains of trees actually. All the big ones seem to have been turned upside down. It's just the guarri trees that are standing. Now, Cynthia, you're wondering if there are any wild dogs in the area. There could be. There most certainly could be, but I haven't seen any. We did have the tracks 2 mornings ago. Well, no, it was yesterday morning. We had wild dog tracks, and we tried our absolute best to try and find them. But unfortunately, we must have just missed them. They crossed south out of our traverse. It didn't look like a big group of dogs. I thought it looked like maybe 3, and there is 2 different packs that we see that have 3 dogs in them. So I'm not sure exactly which one it could have been. Who is he walking here? Monkeys. We might see some monkeys. Look like they were playing on the fire break today. That would actually be quite nice to sit and watch a troop of vervet monkeys. It'd be very pleasant too. A nice spot for that is actually around Twin Dams. There's all those big jackalberries. Maybe we'll go back to that area where we had that jackalberry and we found that jackalberry that has fruit on it. Maybe there will be some monkeys there. I'm sure there'll be some great bird life. We'll go have a look there. Also elephants. I would love to see some elephants. Tristan had such great sighting today with them. I wouldn't mind having a repeat of that, and I'm sure you wouldn't mind having a repeat of elephants too. But seeing as though we're in the north now, we will head towards, of course, where are we going to head towards? Maybe Buffelshoek Dam a little bit later as well, once we've done the weaving around. Perhaps once we get to Vuyatela, we'll go towards Buffelshoek Dam and check that out and see if there's anything there. That'll be later during the day. We might even get some nice birds coming down for a drink. And then I said we were going down Aubrey's, so down Aubrey's we go. Let's keep checking around here. These roads don't always seem to be driven, so it is quite nice because you can see lots and lots of tracks. On this road it seems to be lots and lots of tracks. Who's walking here? Hyena. Oh, all the hyena in the world walking on this road. But of course this road isn't particularly far from the den. The den is just one road up down over there, so it's a quick route through the block. Obviously it takes a little bit longer when we have to meander along these roads. They just take us the most direct route, and then of course they can get from there, they can go to Sydney's Dam, which we've seen them many times drinking and actually playing around in the water. What else are we going to find this afternoon? It's very quiet. Tina, you said if when we go to Buffelshoek Dam, can we have a look at the hippo? You want to see if it's found a girlfriend. We can. There probably will still be one hippo in the dam though, however. We'll definitely have a look. Just because there's no need for them to move around too much during the day. There's still quite a bit of grazing around. Towards the end of, what are we in now, July? Towards the end of August, we might see some activity of hippos out of the water, just because then the grazing will be quite low and they'll utilize the cooler days to sort of get any extra feeding done if they can. There was that one spot on Arathusa, that hippo that used to live in Red Dam. There was an old 2-track that went from Parallel Road down back towards Red Dam, and if you took that, we did it a couple of times when we saw this hippo out of the water constantly, so he used to feed all the time. And I always say when I was in Zambia, you used to see hippos out of the water more than 10 every single day, very easily. They'd feed on the little islands, all the long grass and the reeds. Now Rebecca from the Mara, so that's of course one of the Wild Earth employees, was wondering if I would be getting up early to watch the TV show and then also sending in questions. Probably not. I don't know. Maybe. We'll see. It depends. What are we going to see on the TV show? I want to know. I'm going to be demanding. I want to know what animals I can expect. No, I'm just teasing, of course. Maybe. We'll see. I don't know though, Rebecca. Let's ask Megan and Alice. Are you guys going to get up to watch the TV show? It would be nice. We could just stay up the whole night. Megan says, yeah, let's do it. That's the most South African reply that could have been said. Yeah, let's do it. Hey?
At what time?
Right, what have we got here? Who's been walking here? More hyena. I wonder if these hyenas, these adults, weren't moving around during the day a little bit, because some of these tracks don't look particularly old. Also, the wildebeest were around here at one point too. Well, not all of them, not the big herd. It just looked like they were maybe a bull's tracks just walking through here. Right, now we need to go up the next row. Just check for cars. No cars. And you never know when you might have an elephant charging down the road. You must make sure you give the elephants way too. I think our best bet to find some animals will be if we head towards Galago Pan. Maybe we'll find some there, because at the moment, I promise you, I haven't driven past one thing. Not even a bird. Just very, very quiet. I'm not sure why, because it's quite a nice day. It's not particularly windy at all. Yesterday was way windy, and then we were still seeing at least a few birds. Let's see. Nope. Still nothing. Not even the Impala. Impala have moved out of this area too. Maybe we get lucky. Maybe we see a Deka. We've seen Steenbok already with Tristan. We had one running away too, obviously, earlier. A Deka would be very cool, actually. You know what I'd like to see? I'd like to see a Deka eating a mouse. But I'll elaborate on that a little bit later, about Deka eating meat every now and then. Let's go to Tristan. He's got a surprise.
I do indeed, because no.
Can't stay away from me, I see. Now, it sounds like Tristan does have a leopard, but unfortunately the gremlins are around there, so hopefully he'll be able to Tayla Kwando them. He has got Thandi though, apparently, so that's quite nice. Where is he? Is he on Djuma still, Megan? I actually don't know where Tristan is, to be honest. I turned my radio down. I'm terrible at doing that. Well, Megan will find out where exactly Tristan is. Hopefully he can find a spot. I wonder, because remember this morning we had female leopard tracks around Leadwood, Gowrie, Main, and we searched that area. And we searched and searched around Leadwood, Mamba, going up and down. I think we went around about 3 times looking for that leopard, but we didn't have much luck at all. So it seems as though he's just off Elephant Carcass. That is a sneaky leopard, but I think she was maybe moving during the day, because between Tristan and I, we covered those areas extensively. We drove up and down over each other's tracks twice over. So she was obviously looking for something to eat during the day. It's amazing how, though, the leopards in the sands, they're not just restricted to hunting in the early hours of the morning and late at night. They're quite happy to come out during the day, and I'm sure that this is the case with many leopards. We typically see it with the females, with the mothers, and Mvula when you're in retirement. Why do you want to bother bumping into a territorial male and getting into an unnecessary fight when you can just move around during the day and sleep at night with a meal? Oh, there's a couple of Impala around here, and oh, there's a little Nyala. That's quite cute. I'm going to pull off the road just slightly, and you can look under the bushes, under that bush willow, and see the little Nyala. It's very small. I think we see these guys around camp because I've noticed a very young Nyala, and we aren't far from camp. We're probably only about less than 100 meters away. Whoop! Wow, just a little jump across the road. That was very cute. Oh, no, we're not watching that one. Sorry, I was watching the baby Nyala. It was quite sweet, but it's running off towards mom now. And there are the others just feeding. They're also going to cross the road. They're following this other female. I don't think they would have had a drink just yet. I think they might be heading that way at some point. What was that on the floor? Stop to have a little smell of whatever that is on the ground. Like I said, not just in Nyala, there's also the Impalas around. And last Nyala. They seem to be very intrigued by something. Let's see if it's also going to stop. You're going to stop at that white thing on the road? No, you wanted to, young male. Maybe it was a bone. Paula, you say that, oh, they are so lovely. They are so lovely, these Nyala. They're very pretty antelope. I like all of them in the Leopard family. Right, let's go towards the Gallagher Pan. By Impala Ram dashing across the road. Annabella, who is only 6 years old, is wondering if things fall out of the trees and onto my head while I'm driving. I'm sure they could. You know what happens, and it's the worst thing that can happen, and it doesn't just happen to you out here in the bush, but it can happen in the cities too, is when a bird poops on your head. That is the worst thing in the whole world. But actually, there's something even worse than that. Now, this might not happen in the cities, but it happens out here, is if a vervet monkey or a baboon poops on your head. That's not very pleasant at all. Very stinky, and it's quite upsetting actually. I don't know anybody who has, but yes, fruit can fall on top of your head quite easily. Imagine the jackalberries would drop down on your heads too. And the marulas, most certainly. Actually, while we've been doing bushwalks and we've been looking at dung beetles in the dung from the elephant, so it's got a tickle in my throat all of a sudden. Nothing at the pan. We'll keep going. And then yes, I was sitting there, and I think I actually said the one day, I was like, we better be very careful here because the marulas are going to fall on top of us. There's a little chugger, but I don't know if it's going to sit still. It's just flown in down here. Let's see if it comes out. It's hiding. But there is a yellow-billed hornbill just sitting slightly further up, also hidden between on the bush willow. The wind is actually picking up now. What are you eating? Did you see that? It had something white that it gobbled down. I don't know what that was. Maybe an egg from something? An insect egg? Maybe a spider's egg? An egg sac? I didn't get a good enough glimpse of it. It happened so quickly. Just hiding amongst all those leaves. Beautiful. Right. Let's carry on with our search. Let's go towards Tayla Dam. Right, it seems as though Tristan is not winning with our gremlins. Let's give it another bash. Let's go back across to him and see if he can get a view of Thandi.
Well, we're trying our very, very best, but unfortunately the signal doesn't want to work. So over there, where that little stump is where we don't have signal. From here, where we are, which is a sum total of about 10 meters, we do have signal. Now, Thandi is sitting over here on my right-hand side. Behind all of that nonsense is where she's sitting on a termite mound, and there really is one gap that we can view her from with the vehicle, and it's the place that the gremlins are busy sitting. So at this stage, we're just playing a waiting game with her and waiting for her to move, and hopefully she'll kind of position herself in a way that we can see her. I'm also thinking about all kinds of other ways that I can try and get to her, but it's really proving a bit difficult. I was hoping if I could go back slightly from where I am now, we would maybe get an angle on her, but there's a big stump behind me which I can't go behind, so I'm really sort of limited to this section that we're in. I've tried to go in here on my right hand side, this little hole over here, but as far as I can get is that tree, and there's then no view of Thandi through there at all. So she's really in a very difficult spot at this stage, and I think Rusty would even struggle with the sort of signal in this area. Now, James, you say so nice to see your favorite leopardess, even if it was for a split second. Well, James, don't fear. We definitely will see her for a little bit longer than what we saw her just now. I will find a way, and if there is a will, as they say, there is a way, and we will find somehow to be able to get to where she is and be able to see her a little bit better. So I'm going to try and work out a plan here somehow to be able to get to a situation that we can at least have some sort of view of her, even if it's an obscured one. If we can just see where she is, and you don't have to look at me all the time, but you can look at the beautiful Thandi. She is looking fantastic, and I'm surprised at how much distance this leopard can cover. She was seen yesterday in Torchwood, or actually in fact she was seen near Cheetah Plains yesterday morning, and then all the way back up here into Djuma. Still no sign of Tumba that I can see anywhere here, and there's no tracks for him. It was just tracks for Thandi. She actually walked on top of our vehicle tracks this afternoon and then came and lay up on the mound itself. So it would have been nice if she just lay on the northern side of the mound, because it would have meant we could have seen her. But at this stage, no chance that I can sort of see. I'm going to try and reposition just now and go round the mound onto the bottom side and see if maybe, just maybe, we pick up reception there, but I'm not hopeful. Once we drop further down into this little drainage section, it becomes difficult. I know that we've tried many times before with this particular area with Thandi in both Rusty and Wendy, and neither of them are able to get coverage down in this dip. It's very thick and densely foliated, which means that the little repeater that we've got, repeater station, and the little antenna we've got can't really see one another, and that's why we have a bit of an issue. Now, Dave, you say no sign of Tumba. Unfortunately not, Dave. There isn't any sign of him at all that I can see. You never know, he might be lying here. You can see this is not exactly a open area, but at the end of the day, no sign that we can see. No footprints for him that would indicate that he's here somewhere. You never know, though. He might be hiding in some of these thickets, and we'll see him at another stage. But the other vehicle has just gone where I thought I was going to go and park, but I don't think they can see much of that leopard either. You know what, Craig? Let's try one more time, just to move slightly. Now, Megan, I do apologize if it does break up a little bit. Just bear with me. I'm not going to go too far forward. So now, let's see if I can't just sneak around. And maybe, just maybe from here, Craig, we can see. Can you see there, Craig? It's going to be obscured, but we might be able to get a little sort of view straight through there. If I go forward, maybe she's just there. So difficult to see her. I can see her from where I am, Craig. I'm going to go forward a little bit for you. Maybe a bit back. A little bit back. Just watch, Craig. How's that? Can you see her now? Alright, guys, that's about as far as I can go, but at least we can see her, and we are able to actually get some sort of view on some spots. There we go. Hello, Thandi. How are you, my girl? So that is Thandi for sure, definitely, with that sort of pinkish nose, and then those bars that run across her left eye, which James used to ID her the other day when she was with Shongile and Vula, and she's looking as beautiful as ever. And hopefully we'll start to see her yawning a little bit, and that will mean that she's going to get up and move. I might be able to actually go back slightly more so we can actually see her face. Just give me 2 more seconds. Sorry, Craig. How's that? Can we see her face, or a bit more? A bit more, hold on, Craig. There we go. Alright. Now I've put Craig, unfortunately, into a bush willow, but at least now you've got a fairly clear visual of her face, and I believe a lot of you are very happy to celebrate Feline Friday with the most beautiful, well, in my opinion, the most beautiful leopard that we see out here. She's fantastic. I love little Thandi. She might be small, but she packs a serious punch, and she's a very, very pretty leopard. Seems a very tired leopard too. You can see the eyes are closing from time to time, and she's starting to rest. But isn't that the perfect place for a leopard? Look at that camouflage, and you'll see when she drops her head down, she becomes almost invisible. If it's not for that little white tail flicking up from time to time, that's the only reason that we're actually seeing her, is because that little white tail flicks, and then that's how we're able to find her. Yes, we're talking about you. Hello, girl. Isn't that the most piercing stare? She definitely has a look about her that can strike fear into most people's eyes, and I've seen Thandi actually be very aggressive with a number of different trackers in the time, and she's one of those that some of the trackers are quite scared to track, because she often does show teeth and come flying out of bush towards you, particularly when she's got cubs around. So you have to always be a little bit respectful of Thandi and Shadow. Beard, you say this leopard has a permanent look of concern on her face. I'm not really sure that she does. Maybe. I never really noticed that. She always looks as though she's serious, though. That I will say. She kind of gives you that look, and when she looks at you, you know that she is definitely something that will be able to dominate you. But isn't that beautiful? Look, now that she's looking up, I don't know if she looks so concerned. It's more as if she's just sort of going, you guys again. You have to come and look at me. Can't you leave me in peace? That's kind of the look I always feel that she gives us. And I think she's going to flop back down shortly. There we go. You've got to use your paw as a pillow when you're tired in the afternoons. Oh. So I believe a lot of you are commenting on just how pretty she is, and like I say, she is, for me, one of the prettiest females that we see out here. Now you can see what I was talking about in terms of camouflage. I mean, that's quite zoomed in. From where I'm sitting, it is really very difficult to see her. And if you drove past her, the chances of you seeing that are almost zero. It is perfect camouflage. And the way that those spots just help melt that sort of body into that mound is quite phenomenal. And particularly in areas like this where you get this spotted pattern, or this dappled light, that spotted pattern really blends in very well. So super good camouflage, and it's why they utilize areas like this. And Thandi, for some reason, absolutely loves this area. She seems to be completely fond of this particular drainage section. She seems to really want to spend a lot of time here, and most of the times that she's come to Djuma, that's where she's been. So there you go, spot the leopard. That's for those of you who like screenshots. If you can take a screenshot of that and try and show people and ask them to spot what animals in there, I guarantee most people won't be able to see that leopard. Looks like just one of the branches. If you look at the branch lowest in the screen there, you'll see it kind of has the same similar highlights as to what she does lying on the mound. Pretty incredible. And you'll get the odd ear flick from time to time. Also, what you can see is, look at the size of her paws. That front paw, massive in comparison to the back paws. Leopards, it's a lot more noticeable than what you'll see with lions. Lions tend to have, big front paws, but their back paws also tend to be quite bulky. But leopards really always look like their front paws are almost double the size than their back paws. And remember, she doesn't have the biggest feet out of all of the leopards that we see here. She's actually got quite a small track, much like what we see with Shadow and even little Shongile. It seems to be a trait of Karula's daughters, as most of them are quite small feet, and yet they all pack a serious punch. And I was saying earlier that Thandi is one of those females that I've seen bring down animals way bigger than what she is. We've seen her hunt fully grown female kudu, fully grown female waterbuck. Now both of those animals weigh probably, I would say, 6-7 times what she weighs, yet she's able to bring them down and wrestle them down. The problem is with her, she often targets these big animals and unfortunately loses them, because any time you're going after something the size of a kudu and you're that size, there's no way she can take it up into a tree, and so you get a situation where she has to forfeit it to hyenas inevitably. But it doesn't stop her from trying. She definitely is not scared of going after a larger prey source if the opportunity presents itself. And I wonder if we've seen now her kind of leaving Tumba behind now, because it's very seldom we see them together. And it seems like, the last time we saw Tumba, the last few times we've seen Tumba, he's been on his own. So I wonder if she's starting just to break that process up now in the event that he's going to start slowly but surely pushing away from her. Now, Carly from Costa Rica, you asking, is her fur as soft as it looks? Well, Carly, I don't know. I've never touched her fur, but from other big cats that I've seen, and I mean the lions that I darted when I was on my leave, their fur is not as soft as you think. It's a lot more bristly than what you would expect it to be. It's not like a cat's fur that's maintained and brushed and looked after. It's a little bit more rougher and bristly and harder than what you would see with a domestic cat. They obviously do have soft fur on their tummy and around their chin area, but that's fur on the sides is a little bit more bristly. It almost reminds me of like a short-haired dog in terms of the feel, if you want to call it that. So if you ever stroked one of the short-haired dogs around the world, many different species, then you would know that it's a little bit more bristly and rougher than it is soft and velvety. I think our girl is going to have a very long nap this afternoon before she decides to actually get going. Tony, she is a very sleepy kitty, and it's probably because she's been moving most of the day. If she was seen here, it means that she's gone all the way from Torchwood area, which means she's probably marched most of the day. And it's not an uncommon trait that we see with both Shadow, Thandi, Kruger used to do it, and we see it with Shongile and Hosana too, is that they are very prone to walking during the day. Now, if you hear a few bushes, it's just Craig trying to get himself out of a bush willow that I've put him in, so I'm sorry about that, Craig. But they like to walk a lot, and then this time of the day they'll rest and they wait for that sun just to get down a little bit lower. Remember, most leopards are crepuscular, which means that they're active more at dawn and dusk, and they will spend a lot of the time resting in between that. And so that sort of half an hour before the sun sets and then going into the time after the sun sets is when a leopard is very active, and then again just before sunrise they start to move around a lot. They actually reckon that leopards, and the studies that they've done, sleep a lot during the middle periods of the night. They actually don't move around much, except for Tingana, who seems to just never stop moving. He's always walking around. You'll find that most leopards actually are quite rested during the middle parts of the evening, unless there's an opportunity to hunt. You know, there's often times when they'll stumble upon impalas, or impalas will stumble across them and they'll then have a go. But for the most part, their peak activity is just after sunset and just before sunrise, and that's why they got the crepuscular name. What have you heard, girl? Nope. It's almost like it's too bright for her, and she's putting her paw over her eyes as if to cover them and sort of block out the light. But she is so pretty, and I'm so glad to see her. I can't remember the last time I actually saw Thandi. I think it was that day just before I went on leave when we had her and Tumba drinking and then chasing those waterbuck around the main road near Chitwa side. So I haven't actually seen her for quite some time, and it's good to see her. She looks healthy as ever and looking strong and fit. And I, like I say, wonder if she's not starting to come into estrus cycles, and that's why she's been away from Tumba the last little bit. I know that while I was on leave, I believe that Tingana and Kuchava and Thandi were all in the same sighting, and that Tingana was showing quite a bit of interest in both Kuchava and Thandi, and maybe both those leopards are coming into estrus, and that's why she's separated from Tumba for a bit. I wouldn't worry about Tumba just yet. A young male leopard, as we saw with Hasana, disappeared for a few weeks before we saw him again when Kruger disappeared. So I'm sure he's around, and we'll definitely try and pay attention and try and find him. But we're going to spend our afternoon with the beautiful Thandi, because, well, why not? We've been looking for leopard for the last few days, and we've been rewarded with one of the most beautiful cats out here. And so while we sit here and wait for her to start waking and to start getting active, let's go across to Tayla McCurdy, who has got something that's maybe not quite as pretty, but is definitely worth a look.
Definitely not as pretty as Thandi. I do agree with you, Tristan. But we had to come and visit our dear friend, the hippopotamus of Buffelshoek Dam, because Tina wanted to know if the hippo had found a girlfriend during the day. But Tina, if you are still watching, as you can see, unfortunately, no, was it Tina or was it was Tina, hey? If I'm not mistaken. Yes, it was. I'm not making it. For a minute I started doubting myself there. Just double checking. But you can see, unfortunately, no other hippos in the dam for you. He's got some friends though. There's a blacksmith lapwing, or Mr. and Mrs. Blacksmith lapwing, just sitting on that side of the dam, right just over there. There they are. Not up to too much, just doing a quick afternoon preen, and why not in the lovely afternoon sun, of course, it'd be nice. They aren't just the two of them. There was a dove that had also come down for a drink, but I see it has now flown away. And they're not making noise for a change. I'm sure the hippo is feeling quite happy about that the blacksmith lapwings are not... You can't call what the sound that they make a cackle. That's not the right noise. I don't know how to describe the sound of a blacksmith lapwing. Obviously, they reckon that it sounds like somebody striking metal. That's where they get their names from, the blacksmith striking metal. But how would you describe that, Sebastian? What word would you use to say when the racket that is produced by a blacksmith lapwing? Megan and Alice, feel free to chime in at any time. Let's just watch this hippo. I think he started mouthing the water for a moment. I wonder if he's going to perhaps open his mouth for us. He looks like he's slowly starting to wake up, because when we saw him this morning, he didn't even have his eyes open. Do you remember that? He was fast asleep. He still looks a little bit on the tired side. Maybe he's going to do a roll underneath the water. Let's see if he creates some big waves. Yes, there we go. No? Oh, I thought we were going to see a foot pop out of the water. That's one of my favorite things, is when they do roll around. Perhaps we'll go and try and find some hippos at Chitwa Dam. Maybe we'll go and do that actually, and spend the afternoon with a pod. Maybe we get some action. But you see how he keeps mouthing the water. Now typically when they start doing that, they normally open their mouths and stretch open their jaws. Let's see if he's going to do that, because he looks like an impressive bull. Yes, good hippopotamus. Isn't that cool? You know what, nature's so great when the animals sort of use your cue and then they open their mouths. But this is the time that they start to get active, so you can expect a lot of mouth opening. Typically that's a threat display. I don't think he's particularly bothered with us. He hasn't snorted or grunted at us once since we've been here. I think he's just starting to move around now, and maybe he knows that it's a Friday afternoon and he's going to put his dancing shoes on. Maybe he's going to do that. He's going to go and find himself a date, I reckon. Where did he go now, though? Should we time and see how long he stays under the water for? But hopefully he doesn't stay under the water for a whole 6 minutes. Come on, another one for us, big man. Now, Wendy, you're wondering if it's normal for hippos to be alone, because we see this hippo in Bubbleshoek Dam all by himself quite often. Yes, it is. So this is just a young bull. He's actually got a very nice spot here. He's got lots of grazing around him. He's probably got the entire... Do you think he's hitting on me, Sebastian? He feels like this hippo's staring straight at me. And of course he's not. But sorry, Wendy. So it's not uncommon, especially in smaller dams like this. Though Bubbleshoek Dam is not particularly small. It's drying up fairly quickly now. I reckon though, you can expect to find a female in the dam with him at any point. At one stage there were 2 males and 2 females in here. Actually there were 3 females. There were actually 5 hippos at one point, but they've all obviously moved on to other areas, and that's okay. He's fine with that. You know, the females are more sociable than the males. The bulls are just responsible for looking after all the girls and the calves, and then of course mating with them. How's that? That rolled around under the water, big yawn, and he made a bit of a racket too, and now he's going back to sleep. Oh, Beard, you said that he's showing us who owns this pond. I think that's exactly what happens, and perhaps he took offense to my comment this morning when I said that he was lazy and he's not particularly interesting, and maybe he was offended by the fact that I didn't spend too much time with him. Well, I'm making up for it now. I'm spending the whole afternoon here, but I'm going to go and visit, maybe they're not your friends, but the other hippos of Chitwa Dam, because I quite like looking at those little ones. There's 2 little hippos in that dam which are so funny to watch. I really want to catch this gentleman here, though, even the hippos of Chitwa Dam exiting the water. But I don't know, we'd have to hide away, because they're obviously quite shy when they leave the water. They're very vulnerable when they come out onto land, so sometimes they're not willing to do so. We'll see if he's going to give us one more sort of grunt, or perhaps he's going to open his mouth for us, and then we'll start making our way around. But now, again, he looks like he's just gone back to sleep again. He's not ready to get out of bed. I don't blame you. Jeremiah, you've said maybe he's asking me to swim. Oh, drats. I didn't bring my my swimming costume with me. Oh, how unfortunate is that? You know, sorry hippopotamus, next time. No, I don't think I'll be joining this hippo for a swim. Well, if you wanted him to splash around and make a bit of noise, me just standing on the edge of the water would cause him to do that, but then I'd have to be quick enough to get out of the way, because I'm sure he'd come charging at me. I don't think he would take too likely to me approaching his territory. Remember, hippos don't just have territories in the water, but they also have territories out on land. We sort of look at it as a figure of 8. What have you spotted? Have you spotted another bird?
No.
There's a dove to the left of Mr. Blacksmith Lapwing, the one that's to the furthest. There's a little dove that's come down for a drink. We can have a look at it. A little bit more to the left. If you keep panning, you'll eventually spot it. There it is. Ah! Silly dove. That was your moment. Obviously, it must have heard another dove, or perhaps it had already finished its drink of water and gone off. Now, Tino... why did I just say Tino? I think I was thinking of Tino, and then I combined Tina and Tino together. Sorry, Tina on safari. You were wondering how far do hippos migrate? Well, that all depends on the available water sources in forms of rivers, dams, pans, even mud wallows when they get particularly desperate during the winter season. And also it has to do with food as well. I suppose that's the two things that revolve around a migration, is food and water. That's exactly it. So at this time of the year, the hippos start to travel a lot further away from permanent water sources. So for instance, I always talk about how the Chitwa hippos, we see them crossing into Djuma every single day. We see their tracks and then going back towards a dam. So they can move on average every night around 8 kilometers or so. Not too much more than that. However, in extreme circumstances, you'll see them moving 20 kilometers. Easy. They might have to walk through the morning slightly. Remember, hippos aren't or don't have the biggest stride like an elephant does, but they try their best with their short little stubby legs, and they can move quickly. So don't let those short stubby legs fool you.